Might involve storytelling or learning to play musical instruments or any one of a number of exciting things. So everything is inspired by the teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Om Maganati Mirandasya Ganangana Salakya Chaksavarun Miricham Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Maha Sri Chaitanya Manogistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamyam Dharati Swaparadikam. I'm going to say a few more prayers, give the kids time to get down there and settle. Normally I launch into talk now, but Om Maganati Marandasya Ganangana Salakya Chaksurin Militam Yana Tashmai Sri Gurave Maha Sri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yana Bhutare Sayam Rupa Karamayam Dharati Swaparandikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sita Parikamam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sa Sri Rupam Sagadiram Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Stam Siddhepam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Shikanvitam Scha. So today we'd like to talk about being comfortable not knowing. We all face situations where we don't see how they're going to work out. We look at the facts, the figures, we crunch the numbers, the reports, and we conclude, there's no way I'm getting through this. We do our best to come up with a plan, to find some kind of a solution, and we think it's up to us. We just have to come up with the answer. It's all on our shoulders, or else the sky will fall, or something equally ominous like that. Our message today is that there are things that Krishna, or God, doesn't want us to know. Doesn't mean He hasn't got the solution. He's got the solution. But if He showed it to you right now, you wouldn't grow. You wouldn't mature. It wouldn't take any faith. If you could see right now how your child is going to turn out, if you could see how your future is going to play out in that office setting, if you could see the doors that Krishna intends to open for you, the favor, the provision, the healing, if you could see all that up front, then where would be the role of faith? Where would be the importance of trusting in God? So the test comes when we don't know the answer, when we don't know how it's going to happen. It's often jokingly said of Christopher Columbus, the famous explorer. We celebrate him one day a year in America. You could sum up his whole experience in this way. When he left Spain, he didn't know where he was going. When he set foot on the shores of America, he didn't know where he was. And when we returned to Spain, he did not know exactly where he had been. And yet, we consider him a success. We celebrate. So what's wrong with not knowing? It doesn't have to keep you from your destiny. Now, your own thoughts may tell you, well, how are you going to make it after you retire? What if you don't get that scholarship? What if your health doesn't improve? The problem is, sometimes the fact is there is no logical solution. And the more that we try to reason it out, the more down and discouraged we get, thinking, what in the world am I going to do? Well, this is what faith is all about. You have to be comfortable not knowing. You don't have to figure it all out. You don't have to come up with a plan to solve every problem. It's okay not to know. In the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna's problem was he had to know. Or he thought he had to know. He thought he had to figure out the situation, come up with a solution. The bad guys were facing him on the battlefield. He was a good enough warrior to kill them all and rid the world of their brand of evil. The problem was they were also his teachers, his relatives, his cousin brothers, his mentors. He'd never come up with exactly this kind of a scenario in hundreds and hundreds of battles on behalf of truth, light, and righteousness. This was a major twist. This was not anything he'd ever seen before. So he rehearsed various outcomes in his mind. None seemed to end satisfactorily. Finally, he said, maybe it's not my job to break my head against a rock and to try and figure it out. That's Krishna's job, not mine. And in Arjuna's case, he just happened to have the creator of the universe, the cause of all causes, conveniently right beside him on the chariot. So he said, I'm going to put it to Krishna, who's like 18 inches away. Well, I'll just put a little parenthesis. He's also 18 inches away from you in your heart as well. So in the end, Arjuna had such trust in what Krishna was doing that he didn't have to understand how everything was going to work out. He didn't have to have all the details. He just took one step at a time. The problem is, sometimes we think it's our lack of faith to say, I don't know. We think if we're people of faith and we're in touch with God, we assume that we have to pretend that we know things we don't know. We have to pretend that we are people we aren't. We don't have to do any of that. God does not ask that of us. Just the opposite. He asks us to trust him, to believe in him, and to take the pressure off. You don't have to know. Krishna knows that's sufficient. He has you in the palm of his hand. He's directing the steps of those who keep him first place by chanting his holy names. He's had all of your days planned out. He's got the blueprint for your life. The minnow, the tiny minnow in vast bodies of water, he doesn't understand the currents and tides of the ocean, the chemical composition of the water. Doesn't keep him from being perfectly at home in the water. A little sparrow has no comprehension of space or aerodynamics, but that doesn't keep him from enjoying the atmosphere and feeling at home there. Similarly, our minds cannot even begin to touch the magnitude of God. His ways are unsearchable and inscrutable. Well, here's the reason. Krishna doesn't always give us the details because, frankly, if he showed you what he had in store, you would be amazed, you would be awestruck, you would be excited, but here's a problem. That when he showed you what it would take to get from where you are now to there, the giants you're going to face, the Goliaths, the closed doors, the times you might have to get out of the boat and stretch and take risks, you'd probably say, well, that's okay, Krishna. I'm okay where I am. So one reason that God doesn't show us is that if he showed us, we would probably talk ourselves out of it. We had some friends up from Los Angeles a number of years ago, and they had two little girls. I think they were 8 and 10 years old. And they said, we want to go on a hike. So I've been up Cascade Springs. You can go up the canyon road there towards Heber and pull off. And it's about a 3-mile hike up to these beautiful springs. I said, let's go to Cascade Springs. Well, I didn't consider that although it was a very short hike for me, for these little girls 8 and 10, it was quite an ambitious, arduous hike, and there wasn't a lot of shade. So I had to keep encouraging them when they wanted to stop. I knew that when we got to the destination, it was beautiful shade and grass, wonderful place to sit down. We had llamas with us. We would unpack and have a picnic and all. But they kept wanting to stop. After a mile, they want to stop. It's too hot. We're too tired. But it was just weeds and rocks and blazing sun. So I kept saying, oh, it's just around the next corner. It's just around the next corner. So I got them around the next corner, and I got them around the next corner. I got them around the next corner. This was the strategy I used. And then finally, I actually knew for a fact that it was around the next corner, but they didn't believe me anymore, so they refused. They went on strike. So then I had to get down on my hands and knees and say, look, I have been lying to you just to get you this far. But now, please believe me, we've only got 100 yards to go. Please. So we went the 100 yards, and I've got pictures in our scrapbook. Beautiful llamas eating the grass, beautiful water. We're all sitting, everybody's happy. But my wife, she never lets me forget that. True, you always underestimate. You always tell people it's less than what it should be. Well, Krishna does the same thing. I mean, I'm not Krishna or anything, but if you told everybody how many steps it would be, how little shade there is, how far it is, they probably would just sit at home, watch TV. So you don't tell them for their own good. When you can't figure out how something's going to work out, guess what? That's a sign that Krishna or God doesn't want you to know. And you have to be okay with that. And when you say, Krishna, I don't know how my business is going to bounce back from the pandemic. Krishna, I don't know how my family's going to be restored. I don't know how I'm going to raise these children as a single parent. I don't have any of those answers, but I'm not going to live stressed, worried. Krishna, I trust you that even though I don't see a way, even when I don't have an answer, that's not important. It's not my job to know. It's your job to know. You're the one that controls the whole universe. And that attitude of faith on our part is what allows Krishna to do amazing things. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. The truth is that Krishna had the solution before you had the problem. He could show you the details. He could show you how it's going to resolve. But if he's not, then take it as a test. He doesn't want you to know right now. Question is, will you trust him even when you don't see how it could happen? Myself, I'm the kind of person, very controlling. One person called me a control freak one time. It's a common term. I like to have a plan. I'm detailed. I'm organized. I'm always trying to work things out, figure things out. When I don't see a way, I do tend to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, not be able to get back to sleep at night. I tend to live a little on edge, a little uptight. But it's very liberating when you get this principle down in your soul. There are just some things that we're not supposed to know. It's okay to say like Arjuna, I don't know how it's going to work out, but I'm at peace in the process. That's not a lack of faith. It's just the opposite. You're taking yourself off the throne and you're putting Krishna or God back on the throne. When we're trying to figure everything out, come up with our own plan, if I could just make this happen and manipulate the situation, convince this person to like me, what are you doing there? You're trying to be God. As long as you're on the throne, Krishna will step back. He'll abdicate. But when you say, Krishna, I don't know how this is going to work out, but I'm not going to worry. I trust you. I know your plans for me are good. And when you're comfortable not knowing, that's when Krishna can make things happen that you couldn't make happen on your own. Story from the Mahabharata. The 5 righteous Pandavas, and this is another story for another day, they were all married to one wife, Draupadi. So they decided to keep peace amongst them. that if any one of the 5 brothers was in a private chambers with Draupadi, none of the others would enter. And if he should enter, he would voluntarily take himself away in exile for 1 year. But one day it happened that when Draupadi was in the private bedroom with Yudhishthira, a Brahmin came to the palace and began shouting up on the veranda, "Oh, you kings, you're false kings. You collect taxes, and you don't even know right now that there are robbers taking the Brahmins' wealth and getting away. Cruel and despicable men are stealing others' rightful property, and you sit in your palaces collecting taxes and not doing anything. How is it that you call yourselves kings and the Brahmins are not protected?" So Arjuna, he heard these cries, and he said, "Don't worry." He said, "I'll get my weapons. I'll be with you in a second. You mount my chariot with me. We'll go and we'll capture those thieves." But then he realized that his weapons were in the same room where Draupadi and Yudhishthira were staying. So he went in the room. They were just talking. He didn't look to the right or the left. He just went. He explained, there's some thieves. They're getting away. I have to chase them right away. My weapons are in. He explained it very tersely without even looking at him, seeing whatever intimacies was there. He wasn't looking at it. There wasn't any intimacy going on, but he didn't look at it. Explained it to Yudhishthira, and then he was off. And also, it's important to note that Yudhishthira was the king. So it was Yudhishthira's reputation that was being besmirched by the Brahmin. The Brahmin was calling Yudhishthira, more than the other 4 brothers, a false pretender and not able to protect his citizens. So it was really to protect his elder brother Yudhishthira's reputation that he went in and took the weapons. So he entered the chamber, he got his weapons, he went out, he took his bow, he went with the Brahmin, he pursued the robbers, he released arrows, strike down the thieves as they made off with the Brahmin's golden cows, dealt justice to the robbers, restored the property to the grateful Brahmin, and returned to the city. Yudhishthira couldn't have been happier. He hugged his brother, said, "Thank you so much. It was my reputation's sake. You're so good to me," and everything like that. He applauded Arjuna, and Arjuna bowed before his elder brother. He touched his feet. He said, "Now please give me permission to observe the vow and go into the forest for 1 year." And Yudhishthira said, "You're kidding, right?" I mean, surely, I mean, the vow was for different circumstances altogether. I mean, it was, if someone should selfishly, but you only did it for me. You didn't do it for yourself and to protect the Brahminical culture. And Arjuna said a vow was a vow, and I'm sure that although I don't know why this unfair situation has unfolded, why I've been caught between a rock and a hard spot, Arjuna said, "I'm sure that God has a purpose for it." I went away for a year. In Mahabalipuram, there's the biggest rock carving in the world. And it shows Arjuna doing the tree pose in the Himalayan mountains. It's a magnificent work of art, and it's huge. It's bigger than that wall. During that year, it so happened that Shiva came by disguised as a hunter. There was a disagreement between Arjuna and Shiva, and they fought. Shiva in disguise and Arjuna in loincloth and all. And they fought for days and days and days. And Lord Shiva, Mahadev, the king of all yogis, the personality who's powerful enough to destroy the entire universe, he couldn't beat Arjuna. Neither could Arjuna beat Lord Shiva. At the end of it, they called it a draw, and Shiva was so impressed with Arjuna, his chivalry, his nobility, and his prowess, that he gave Arjuna the best thing that one warrior could ever give to another. It was the weapon that only Lord Shiva could wield, the Pasupati weapon. Later on, during the 18-day battle of Kurukshetra, Pandavas would not have won that battle and regained their kingdom had not Arjuna had the possession of the Pasupati weapon. So at the time, it seemed unfair. Nobody could understand what Krishna was up to, why it happened. But Krishna knew exactly what he's doing. And in our lives also, there may be circumstances we just don't understand what's God up to, or how even God could do this or allow him to happen. We don't see the answer. That's okay. It's not your job to see it. It's your job to keep up, to keep excited, to not get discouraged, to not start complaining, to know that Krishna, God, is working behind the scenes to make things happen that you didn't see coming. Going to be so unusual, so out of the ordinary. You're going to know when you see it, and everybody else is going to know when they see it. What is it? It's the goodness of God. Simply that you don't know right in the here and now what the answers are does not mean that Krishna is not going to show up and do something amazing in your life. Now, our challenges: trust when you don't understand. Be comfortable not knowing. Now, take this in the right sense. But sometimes you don't have to try to figure everything out. We have to use wisdom, use common sense, do our homework, do our research. But if you're starting to get frustrated, and in spite of all of that, you can't find a solution, when you're tempted to use your energy to live worried, then know this, that's when Krishna doesn't want you to know. When there's pushback, it's because he doesn't want you to know. He wants you to say to yourself, I know not, neither am I worried, because one thing I do know, for those who keep God first place, he works everything for their good. I don't know how, but what's more important is I know who's on the throne. I may not know what the future holds, but I know who holds the future in his hands. I know who's directing the steps of the righteousness. I know that he's planned out my days. In 1978, I've been the president of the Berkeley Temple for 3 years. When I took over, the temple was in bad shape. There were 20 devotees. And during the 3 years I was there, all 20 devotees left. But that was okay, because 120 devotees came. During that time, we purchased a 150-acre beautiful farm, a Shangri-La-like place in Mendocino Valley. We purchased 5 additional houses for all the devotees to reside in up and down Stewart Street there, just 5 blocks from UC Berkeley. We were the #1 temple in book distribution in North America, turning in hundreds of thousands of dollars to the BBT publishing arm. And we built the annual Festival of Colors in Golden Gate Park up to its highest attendance before then, and even since then, 20,000 attendees. At the time, I assumed that I would spend the rest of my life in the San Francisco Bay Area. It's a famous city, lots of culture, lots of Krishna consciousness. It was only the second place to which Prabhupada went, right after New York City. But Krishna is inscrutable. The Lord moves in mysterious ways, his wonders to perform. He plants his footsteps on the sea and rides upon the storm. Deep in unfathomable minds of never-failing skill, he treasures up his bright designs and works his sovereign will. Krishna, I had my plans, I had my druthers, I had my expectations, but Krishna had his own plans, his own way of fulfilling them. And if you told me then, in 1978, that Krishna's greater plan for my life was to go to Utah, I would have thought you were totally crackers. I didn't know. And it was okay. I didn't know. What would be the reason for me to know back then? All the excitement, all the unexpected things, all the miracles. Why would I want to know that in advance? You have to be in peace with what you don't know. There's something you don't have an answer to in your health, something you don't have an answer to in your finances, in your relationships, something that you would normally be all bent out of shape and worried about, losing sleep, trying to figure it out. Take that same time, take that same energy, and use it to start thanking Krishna that he's working. Thank him that he's making your crooked places straight. Thank him that what's meant for your harm, he's turning to your advantage. Thank him that all things are working for your good. God's ways are better than our ways. What Krishna has in mind for you is much, much, much better than what you have in mind for yourself. So don't be discouraged about what you don't know, about what you can't figure out. Stay in faith. Krishna's going to surprise you with all of the turns in the road. Right now, the medical report says, no way. But God makes a way. You don't see how you could get out of debt. All of a sudden, you get a new client, a new contract, a promotion, something that thrusts you ahead explosively. Going to be out of the ordinary. That's why you can't see it now. That's why you can't find the answer in the present tense. Because in the future, Krishna's going to do it in an illogical, supernatural, unexpected way. You're going to see the exceeding greatness of God's favor. You're going to see something that you were totally not expecting. I tell this story because this is kind of the season of the year for it. At least it was up until last Wednesday. You'll probably figure out who I'm talking about here pretty quickly. A depressed songwriter lived, 100 years ago. He battled in his old age and invalidity and impecunity, the successes of the past and the fear of the future. Elderly, bankrupt. At the age of 65, he had a cerebral hemorrhage that had left him partially paralyzed. He created some good things in the past, but now he was on the edge of worrying that perhaps the creative spark that had provided to him up to this point in life was gone, extinguished. He was flirting with depression. And in the midst of all this depression, an acquaintance, not even a friend, just a man he knew, his name and not much more, came by with all these papers, all in a jumble, in a semi-orderly fashion. And he said, I've been trying to put some music to all this. Do you think that you could look at it and see if you could do anything about it? So this man, without any real expectations, started going through all the papers. And he read about Lord Jesus. He was despised and rejected by all of humanity. And he felt that way too, that he was lost, put aside, neglected on the shelf. He read again about Jesus was one for whom others had no pity. He thought, that's me. I can identify with it. He read about one who in all of that, and even up on the cross, in the crucifixion, with nails in his hands and feet and a crown of thorns around his head, trusted God still. And he read in that piece of scrap paper, I know that my Redeemer lives. And then he read the words, rejoice and hallelujah. That night, George Frederick Handel was blessed by what he called later a gentle cosmic light, leading him slowly out of the darkness, a desire to write music. And at a feverish pitch, he worked tirelessly without sleeping or eating for 4 days until he completed the manuscript. After he completed the manuscript, he dropped into a 17-hour death-like coma. Neighbors in his apartment building called the doctor to see if he was even still alive. Well, you see what happened there. Out of the light of depression, out of the darkness of depression came the light of the Messiah. Out of that depression was left for us a light that could illuminate the lives of countless of millions of people for all ages. Bobby and I went to the Messiah Conference Center 2 years ago at Temple Square. Out of that darkness, a man in deep depression began punching holes in the darkness by the grace of God. So when we study other heroes of faith, we'll see how many times they had to say, I know not. Arjuna, I know not how I'm going to fight my relatives, but I do know that the Lord is on my side. Last example, Prabhupada, our spiritual master, 70-year-old man coming penniless to America to start a spiritual revolution. Are you kidding me? Prabhupada could have said, as he entered Boston Harbor, about to make land on America, I know not how I'm going to lead young Americans of the counterculture who believe in drugs, who believe in illicit sex, who believe in gambling, who believe in meat eating. I know not how I'm going to lead them to the pure Orthodox lifestyle of a Paka Vaishnav Brahmin. But the key is trusting. Trusting when you don't understand. Trusting when you don't have the answers. Trusting when it seems just like the opposite of what you're hoping for. Just when it's easy to get negative, critical, down. God, it's not working out. That not knowing is a test in itself. What you do when you don't know, what you do when it seems impossible, that's what determines whether and when and how much Krishna shows out in your life. And when you pass the test of not knowing, can I tell you, supernatural provision is coming. Right now in your life, in one form or another, you might be where Arjuna is. Krishna promised you something, you had a dream in the heart, but it seemed like so long. Seems like you missed the bus. It's too late. Your best years are behind you. You don't know how you can still have the baby at your age. You don't know how you could get well after having been sick for so long. You don't know how you can accomplish the dream. Well, you don't have to see it for God to do it. You don't have to have all the answers, because what God has spoken in your life, that dream in your heart, which God himself planted in your heart, if you've kept faithful, honored him by chanting his holy name, it's coming for you. Provision is coming for you. Things that you normally wouldn't see happen in your life are coming for you. Things extraordinary, unbelievable, divine, promotions, connections, because you trusted God when you didn't understand. He's going to do things for you that you can't explain. When you obey without the details, when you stay in faith, when you're patient throughout seasons, when you don't see the answer, when every thought tells you, no way that Krishna's going to show up in my life, at that time, he'll cause you to defy the odds, to go to places that you couldn't go on your own. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Our message today is very simple. Be comfortable not knowing. Quit worrying about those things that you can't figure out. Krishna has his devotees in the palm of his hand. There may be times when you just have to say, I know not. But don't stop there. Go further and say with Arjuna, my not knowing is okay. All things work for my good. I'm going to take the pressure off myself. I'm going to get down off of the throne and let Krishna go up on the throne where he's supposed to be and from where he can do his job. Now I'm asking you to be comfortable, to honor the Lord by chanting his holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Pass the test, and Krishna will take you to places beyond anything you could imagine. In this life and the next life, he'll take you back to home, back to Godhead. Thank you very much. Slides are a little jumbled up here. But if you'd like to join me, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now, while the Namamrita is getting everything ready for Arti, we're going to have a song that goes along with the talk. A little more volume, perhaps.
Some mystery, ain't no need for proof. Got you stressed out, future looking bleak. Doubt creeping in, making your spirit weak. Hold up, let me drop some wisdom on your
guys can start getting ready for the Arti.
Let go of the worry, lose that tight control. The unknown's scary, yeah, that much is true. But obsessing over it isn't gonna see you through. Embrace the mystery, the not knowing part. That's where Krishna faith steps in right from the start. You aren't gonna have the answers, that's not your task. Just trust in the journey and take off the mask of worry and doubt. Let your spirit fly free. Krishna's covering his devotees. Just wait and see. Like Arjuna on the battlefield, facing the unknown. Didn't know the outcome, felt all alone. But he trusted Krishna, the divine guide. Surrendered his worries, let go of his pride. Give it all to Krishna, the ultimate force. Accepted his guidance through the dangerous course. So when thoughts tell you how you're gonna make it through, just breathe deep in the milk. Krishna already knew. He treasured up his infallible plans long before the universe began.
Embrace the mystery.
The not knowing part. That's when Krishna faith steps in right from the start. You aren't gonna have the answers, that's not your task. Just trust in the journey, take off the mask of worry and doubt. Let your spirit fly free. Krishna's covering his devotees. Just wait and see. The minnow in the ocean, the sparrow in the air, they don't need a map, they just go with it. Trust in their God, natural flow. That's the kind of wisdom we gotta know. Let go of the need to control every little thing. That's when peace and freedom will truly sing. Embrace the mystery, the not knowing part. That's when Krishna faith steps in right from the start. You aren't gonna have the answers, that's not your task. Just trust in the journey and take off the mask of worry and doubt. Let your spirit fly free. Krishna's covering his devotees. Just wait and see. Yeah, Lord Krishna's got his devotees. And you kept in first place, no need to fret. Stop, count to 10 and take a deep breath. You haven't seen anything yet. future unfolds one step at a time. Say goodbye to worry and let your spirit. Say goodbye to worry and let your spirit shine. Krishna, 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 Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna
Okay, that's
Krishna,
enough.
Hare Hare.
That's enough.
Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prasthaya, Bhutani, Srimate Bhakti, Vedanta Swami, Krishna